In my 42 years on the bench, I've seen defendants from every walk of life: the privileged and the poor, the remorseful and the defiant, the scared young kid who made one mistake, and the hardened repeat offender. But this case, this one shook me in a way few others have, when a 23-year-old daughter of a real estate tycoon walked into my courtroom after spitting on a homeless Vietnam veteran outside a charity gala and then laughed about it on social media. I knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary hearing. What I didn't know was that my ruling would be watched by over 8 million people, and that this young woman's complete lack of remorse would teach me something about how far we've strayed from basic human decency. Let me tell you what happened and why this case will stay with me for the rest of my life. The case file arrived on my desk on a Thursday morning in late October. The charge: simple assault. But as I've learned over 4 decades, there's nothing simple about any assault when you look at the circumstances. The victim's name was Robert Bobby Daniels, 67 years old, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient, homeless for the past 3 years after losing his wife to cancer and his home to medical debt. He spent his days at the VA, his evenings at the shelter, and according to the police report, he was panhandling outside the Biltmore Hotel when the incident occurred. The defendant, Victoria Ashford, 23 years old, daughter of real estate developer Richard Ashford, whose name is on half the luxury condominiums in Providence. She'd been attending a charity fundraiser, ironically for homeless veterans, when she encountered Bobby on her way out. I sat in my chambers reading the police report, and with each paragraph I felt my stomach turn. When I got to the witness statements, there were 12 of them. I had to stop and take a breath. 12 people watched this happen. 12 people saw what she did. And according to the responding officer's notes, when police arrived, she was on her phone, posting about it. I pulled up the security footage from the hotel. I always review video evidence in my chambers first, before court. I want to see it with my own eyes, form my own impressions before the attorneys start arguing about camera angles and context. What I saw made my blood run cold. Here's what happened that October evening based on the evidence I reviewed, the witness statements, and that horrible security footage I must have watched a dozen times. It was around 9:30 p.m. The Providence Veterans Foundation was holding their annual gala at the Biltmore Hotel, a fancy affair with a $500 per plate dinner. Bobby Daniels was sitting on the sidewalk about 50 feet from the main entrance, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Homeless Vet. Anything helps. God bless." According to witnesses, he wasn't aggressive, wasn't bothering anyone, just sitting there quietly with a small cup for donations. Some people walked past, some dropped change, some dropped nothing. That's his right. That's their right. That's America. Victoria Ashford left the gala around 9:45 p.m. with 3 friends. The security footage shows them, all dressed in evening gowns, laughing, holding champagne glasses they apparently brought out from the event. They were waiting for their car from the valet. One of Victoria's friends pointed at Bobby. I could see them laughing. Then Victoria, holding her phone up, clearly filming, walked directly toward him. When I watched this footage, I leaned closer to my screen. I wanted to believe I was misunderstanding what I was seeing. Bobby looked up at her. He said something. Witnesses later testified he said, "God bless you, miss." Just that, a simple, polite greeting. Victoria bent down, and I still can't believe I'm saying this. She spit directly in his face. I watched this 67-year-old veteran flinch, recoil, try to wipe his face with his sleeve. His confusion was visible even on the security camera. He looked up at her like he couldn't comprehend what had just happened, but she wasn't done. The audio on the security footage wasn't perfect, but I heard enough. She said, and multiple witnesses confirmed this exact quote, "You're a disgrace. Begging outside an event for people like you? Get a job, loser." Then she laughed, turned back to her friends, and they all laughed together. Bobby just sat there, wiping his face, his shoulders slumped. In that moment, watching that video in my chambers, I thought about every veteran I've ever met. My own father served in World War II, my uncle in Korea. These men and women gave everything for this country, and this is how we treat them. Two hotel staff members rushed over to Bobby with napkins and water. A security guard approached Victoria and asked her to leave. According to his statement, she said, "Do you know who my father is?" The security guard called the police anyway. By the time officers arrived 10 minutes later, Victoria had posted a video on Instagram with the caption, "When the trash is blocking the entrance, your charity starts at home, not my problem." The video had 3,000 likes before the police even finished taking statements. Here's what happened that October evening. Based on the evidence I reviewed, the witness statements, and that horrible security footage I must have watched a dozen times. It was around 9:30 p.m. The Providence Veterans Foundation was holding their annual gala at the Biltmore Hotel, a fancy affair with a $500 per plate dinner. Bobby Daniels was sitting on the sidewalk about 50 feet from the main entrance, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Homeless vet, anything helps. God bless." According to witnesses, he wasn't aggressive, wasn't bothering anyone, just sitting there quietly with a small cup for donations. Some people walked past, some dropped change, some dropped nothing. That's his right. That's their right. That's America. Victoria Ashford left the gala around 9:45 p.m. with three friends. The security footage shows them, all dressed in evening gowns, laughing, holding champagne glasses they apparently brought out from the event. They were waiting for their car from the valet. One of Victoria's friends pointed at Bobby. I could see them laughing. Then Victoria, holding her phone up, clearly filming, walked directly toward him. When I watched this footage, I leaned closer to my screen. I wanted to believe I was misunderstanding what I was seeing. Bobby looked up at her. He said something. Witnesses later testified he said, "God bless you, miss." Just that, a simple, polite greeting. Victoria bent down, and I still can't believe I'm saying this. She spit directly in his face. I watched this 67-year-old veteran flinch, recoil, try to wipe his face with his sleeve. His confusion was visible even on the security camera. He looked up at her like he couldn't comprehend what had just happened, but she wasn't done. The audio on the security footage wasn't perfect, but I heard enough. She said, and multiple witnesses confirmed this exact quote, "You're a disgrace. Begging outside an event for people like you? Get a job, loser." Then she laughed, turned back to her friends, and they all laughed together. Bobby just sat there, wiping his face, his shoulders slumped. In that moment, watching that video in my chambers, I thought about every veteran I've ever met. My own father served in World War II, my uncle in Korea. These men and women gave everything for this country, and this is how we treat them? Two hotel staff members rushed over to Bobby with napkins and water. A security guard approached Victoria and asked her to leave. According to his statement, she said, "Do you know who my father is?" The security guard called the police anyway. By the time officers arrived 10 minutes later, Victoria had posted a video on Instagram with the caption, "When the trash is blocking the entrance, Starcher's charity starts at home, nurture's not my problem." The video had 3,000 likes before the police even finished taking statements. By the time Victoria's court date arrived 3 weeks later, this case had exploded across social media. My clerk, Patricia, who's been with me for 15 years, came into my chambers the morning of the hearing. "Judge, you should know, this case is everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. People are furious. There are protesters outside." I looked at her and said what I always say. "Patricia, it doesn't matter if 8 people know about this or 8 million. In my courtroom, everyone gets the same fair process. The viral attention doesn't change what I do." And I meant it. But I'll be honest, I was curious. During lunch the day before, I'd asked my grandson to show me some of the posts, video after video of people reacting to the security footage, veterans organizations demanding justice, homeless advocates calling for accountability, even celebrities weighing in. One video had 15 million views, 15 million people watching Bobby flinch as saliva hit his face, watching his humiliation, his pain. But here's what concerned me. Just as many people were defending Victoria, saying Bobby was probably scamming people, saying it's just spit, not assault, saying her father's money would make this disappear. That last part bothered me most, because they were probably right to worry. I've seen wealth and privilege shield people from consequences too many times: expensive lawyers, political connections, donations to the right causes suddenly appearing before sentencing, but not in my courtroom, not today. When Victoria Ashford walked into my courtroom that Tuesday morning, I observed her carefully. I always do. You can learn a lot about a person in those first few seconds. She wore a tasteful navy dress and pearl earrings, clearly her attorney's choice. Her blonde hair was pulled back neatly. She looked like she was attending a college interview, not an assault hearing. Professional, polished, practiced. But it was her demeanor that caught my attention. No nervousness, no concern. She looked bored, annoyed that she had to be there. The courtroom was packed, standing room only. I saw veterans wearing their service caps, homeless advocates with signs, media cameras in the back, and Bobby was sitting in the front row with a victim advocate from the VA, wearing what looked like his only clean shirt, his hands trembling slightly. I called the court to order and asked Victoria to stand. "Miss Ashford," I began, "you're charged with simple assault. How do you plead?" Her attorney, a sharp-dressed man named Howard Sterling, who I'd seen in my courtroom many times, stood quickly. "Not guilty, Your Honor. We maintain this was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by social media." I nodded slowly. "I've reviewed the evidence, Mr. Sterling. Before we proceed, I want to hear from your client directly. Miss Ashford, can you tell me in your own words what happened that night?" She glanced at her attorney, who nodded. Then she looked at me with what I can only describe as practiced innocence. "Your Honor, I'd been at a charity event all evening. I was tired. I'd had some champagne, and when I came outside, there was this man, Mr. Daniels, aggressively panhandling. He said something inappropriate to me, and I reacted poorly, but I didn't assault him. There was barely any contact." I let her finish. Then I picked up the remote control for the courtroom monitor. "Miss Ashford, I'm going to show you the security footage. I want you to watch it with me." I played the video. The entire courtroom watched in silence. When it finished, when everyone had seen Victoria spit directly into Bobby's face, had heard her cruel words, I paused it on a frame showing Bobby's expression: shock, hurt, humiliation. "Miss Ashford," I said calmly, "that video shows you approaching Mr. Daniels. He said, 'God bless you.' Then you spit on him. How do you explain this?" She shifted uncomfortably. "The angle makes it look worse than it was, Your Honor. It was a gesture of frustration. I didn't mean for it to actually hit him." I felt my patience wearing thin, but I kept my voice level. "Miss Ashford, 12 witnesses and multiple cameras captured this from different angles. They all show the same thing. You spit directly in this man's face." That's when my bailiff, Tom, approached the bench and handed me a tablet. "Your Honor, there's something else you should see." I looked at the screen. It showed Victoria's Instagram story from that morning, the morning of this hearing, posted just 2 hours ago. A photo of her coffee with the caption, "Ugh, court today for literally nothing. Judge is being so dramatic. This will be over by lunch." I looked up at Victoria. She'd gone pale. She realized what I was seeing. "Miss Ashford," I said slowly, each word deliberate, "you posted this morning that I'm being dramatic, that this is literally nothing. Is that your position?" Her attorney started to object, but I raised my hand. "No, Mr. Sterling, I want to hear from your client." Victoria stammered, I didn't mean." "Let me tell you what's not nothing," I said, my voice firm but not raised. "Mr. Daniels, would you please stand?" Bobby stood slowly, supported slightly by the advocate beside him. He looked terrified to be the center of attention. "Mr. Daniels," I said gently, "would you tell the court about your service?" He spoke so quietly I could barely hear him. I served in Vietnam, Your Honor, 1969 to 1971, 173rd Airborne Brigade. I was wounded twice, received the Purple Heart." "Thank you for your service," I said. "And can you tell the court what happened to you after you came home?" His voice cracked. "I worked construction for 30 years, got married, had 2 kids. Then my wife got cancer, stage 4, the medical bills. We lost everything. The house, our savings. She died 3 years ago. I've been homeless since. I I never thought I'd end up like this. There wasn't a dry eye in that courtroom, except Victoria's. I looked at her, really looked at her. Do you have anything to say to Mr. Daniels? She glanced at her attorney, then back at me. I'm sorry if he was offended. If, she said if. That's when I knew what I had to do. I took a moment before speaking, composed myself. This wasn't about my anger. This was about justice, accountability, and teaching a lesson that clearly hadn't been taught. Miss Ashford, I began, I want you to understand something. I paused, letting the courtroom settle into complete silence. I've been a judge for 42 years. I've seen thousands of defendants stand where you're standing. Some are remorseful, some are scared, some genuinely made mistakes and want to make them right. Another pause. You posted on Instagram this morning, knowing you were coming to court, that I'm being dramatic, that this is literally nothing. I looked directly at her. Let me tell you what's not nothing. Mr. Daniels, sitting right there, served this country in Vietnam. He earned a Purple Heart, meaning he was wounded in combat defending your freedom. He worked hard his entire life. He loved his wife so much that he gave everything to try to save her, and when he lost her, he lost everything else too. My voice grew firmer. He was sitting outside that hotel, holding a sign, asking for help, not demanding, not stealing, asking. And you who just spent the evening at a charity gala supposedly raising money for veterans like him, you approached him, spit in his face, called him a disgrace, and told him to get a job. I saw Victoria's chin quiver slightly. Finally, some emotion. Then you posted about it on social media, laughed about it, called him trash, told your friend that it's literally saliva, like somehow that makes it acceptable. I leaned forward slightly. This sentence isn't about punishment, Miss Ashford. It's about teaching you something you should have learned long ago, respect, empathy, and that your actions have consequences, every action, even the ones you think are literally nothing. I picked up my notes. Here's what I'm ordering. First, you are found guilty of simple assault. You will serve 90 days in the county jail. And no, Mr. Sterling, I'm not suspending that sentence. She will serve every day. Victoria gasped. Her father, sitting behind her, started to stand before his own attorney pulled him back down. Second, you will complete 300 hours of community service, specifically at the Providence VA Center, working directly with homeless veterans. You will see their faces, learn their stories, understand that they are human beings deserving of dignity. Third, you will issue a public apology, a real one, not written by your attorney, to Mr. Daniels specifically and to the veteran community generally. It will be posted on every social media platform where you posted about this incident. Fourth, you will make a $50,000 donation to the Providence Veterans Foundation, the same organization whose charity event you were attending when you assaulted Mr. Daniels. Victoria was crying now, real tears. And finally, you will undergo a psychological evaluation and complete whatever counseling is recommended. Because, Miss Ashford, what you did reveals something deeply troubling about your character, your values, and your capacity for empathy. I looked at her for a long moment. I genuinely hope, that you use this time to think about who you want to be, because right now the person I see in front of me, that's not who you should be. You're 23 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. You have advantages most people will never have. And this is what you do with it? I shook my head. Mr. Daniels deserved better. Our veterans deserve better. And honestly, Miss Ashford, you deserve better than to become the kind of person who treats another human being like garbage. I brought down the gavel. Court is adjourned. After I delivered the sentence, the courtroom erupted in applause. I don't usually allow that. This isn't a theater, but I let it go. Sometimes people need to express their feelings. Victoria was led away by the bailiffs, finally understanding that her father's money couldn't shield her from consequences. Her attorney immediately filed notice of appeal, which was his right, but I knew my sentence would stand. Bobby approached the bench slowly, escorted by his advocate. He looked up at me with tears streaming down his face. "Thank you, Your Honor," he whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." That broke my heart. Thank you for seeing me. As if being treated with basic human dignity was something remarkable. I stepped down from the bench, something I rarely do, and shook his hand. "Mr. Daniels, you served this country with honor. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be treated with respect. Always." He nodded, unable to speak. Later that day, the video of my ruling went viral, even more viral than the original assault. My grandson told me it had been viewed over 8 million times in just 6 hours. People were commenting by the thousands, veterans thanking me, homeless advocates praising the sentence, others criticizing it as too harsh. But here's what I told Patricia when she asked how I felt about the attention. I didn't do this for the views or the comments. I did it because it was right, because Bobby Daniels is a human being who deserved justice. That's all. 3 weeks later, I received a letter. It was from Victoria, written from jail. She said she was sorry, truly sorry, and that she was beginning to understand what she'd done. She asked if she could meet with Bobby after her release to apologize in person. I forwarded it to Bobby's advocate. I don't know if that meeting ever happened, but I hope it did, because justice isn't just about punishment. It's about healing, growth, and becoming better. If there's one thing I want people to take away from this case, it's this. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Bobby Daniels wasn't just a homeless man. He was a Purple Heart recipient, a loving husband, a hard worker, a man who'd given everything for his country and his family. He was someone's son, someone's father. He was human, but Victoria couldn't see that. She saw only what he appeared to be in that moment, someone beneath her, someone not worthy of basic respect. Social media has made this worse. It's turned cruelty into entertainment. It's turned other people's pain into content. Victoria spit on a homeless veteran and posted about it for likes, for validation, for attention, and thousands of people gave it to her. We need to do better, all of us. We need to teach our children from the earliest age that wealth doesn't make you better than anyone else, that service workers, homeless veterans, struggling families, they all deserve dignity. They all deserve to be seen. In my courtroom, I don't care how much money you have. I don't care whose daughter or son you are. I don't care how many followers you have on Instagram. What matters is how you treat people, especially the most vulnerable among us. Victoria learned that lesson the hard way, but it's a lesson we all need to remember. Your actions, online or offline, always have consequences, and someone is always watching, not just the cameras, not just social media, but the people you hurt, the lives you impact, the world you leave behind. That's what justice means to me. After 42 years on this bench, that's what I still believe. And that's why I'll keep doing this job as long as I'm able, because everyone, especially people like Bobby Daniels, deserves to be treated with dignity, respect, and fairness. That's my promise. That's my responsibility. And that's what I hope you'll remember from this case.